discussions. It is a criticism about having a collection of African leaders going to pay homage to one European or Asian or American leader. And our president was one of those strongly opposed to that, but now we're seeing he's shepherding his colleagues in Africa to do the same. We know the kind of trouble that France is having in West Africa. Now they seem to have found a safe home in Kenya. But when it comes to that format, one leader from Europe, all African leaders coming to pay homage, what do you think of that?
Thank you, Fred. I think it's important that our leaders in Africa say what they mean and mean what they say. It is, of course, very desirable and very good that they say that we should not pay homage to these particular, Western nations. But then we don't do that. For me, I think bilateral relations are good. I mean, we exist in a global village, and of course, different countries have different, abilities, and of course, we need to come together. I like, for example, the cooperation that has been there between Kenya and not necessarily France, but maybe the US, especially in sharing intelligence to be able to, of course, deal with with terrorism, which is a very serious, thing in the world. So bilateral relations, yes, but this act of, like you say, bringing together nations to discuss with just one particular head of state of a Western nation, where such a leader behaves like he's a prefect to all, is a challenge. The other thing that I look at is, of course, when we get these aid and these, these agreements with these foreign nations, there are always strings attached, and sometimes, it may not be there on paper or when we are being given these agreements, but there are so many other strings attached that we also need to think about. Of course, so that some nations without any reference to any particular country, of course, they will bring some conditions like, let us recognize gayism, gay rights, which negates our African values and that kind of thing. And then sometimes some of the agreements that we make come with some other arrangements that, for example, maybe we need to get people managing the resources from the origin of these resources. So there are many things. But all having been said and done, Fred, I think it's important that we emphasize on homegrown solutions for some of the problems that we have. If we are able to eradicate or arrest corruption, for example, maybe we may need very little, even aid or foreign assistance. If we manage our resources, the mega resources that we have, if we manage them in the right way, we may now not actually need to go with the begging bowl to these nations. Fred, because we have been to some of these countries, we thank God that after being elected, you get an opportunity to visit these countries, some of them. I mean, they are not, what makes their economies work is good systems, public transport system, working very well, so that people save on a lot of, costs that would have been there. In some countries, I visited Switzerland last year, and going to Geneva, by the way, sometimes you wonder if you may not even need a car, because the bus system there works very well. So you can imagine the kind of man hours that we waste here, the costs in terms of fuel that we can save if we had a good, city transport system, for example. Health systems that work so that citizens, know that that you are assured of health care. Even without any money, because the health system works, there is a good health cover, that kind of thing. So that when people pay taxes, they pay taxes with goodwill. So that you may find that no citizen, in fact, is trying to evade tax. And so government collects more. So I think we also need to look for local solutions, even as we engage with other countries, so that we do not rely wholly on other countries.
Yes, even as you make your contribution, one of the biggest discussions, and it's about the relationship that these nations have vis-a-vis with us. And some say it's a bit condescending, that it would appear these leaders from the Western side are elevated. And one of those